No, we have topless protests here. Welcome to the 21st century.
Do women have any obligations in marriage?
How dare you sit there all smug because Islam...
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Aslama Reacts. I'm Abdullah bin Saklan and today we're going to be diving into a debate between Daniel Haqiqatjou and an ex-Muslim feminist Nuriya Khan. Daniel Haqiqatjou is a Harvard graduate and the founder of Al-Asna Institute. Meanwhile, Nuriya Khan is an ex-Shia Muslim feminist and her qualifications on Islam are:
have you read a single book of fiqh?
Yeah, it's thick, yeah. No, I would never waste my time reading that stuff.
Yep. Can't wait to watch a debate between an ex-Muslim who doesn't even read the Islamic sources to understand Islam. This is gonna be fun. Before we get into it, let me preface that by saying this is not a whole debate review. It's a review of important part that it seemed fit to include in the reaction. So hope you guys enjoyed and let's get on with it.
Thank you. Hi, it's great to be here again. Thank you, Modern Day Debates, for setting this up. Daniel, it's good to officially meet you after our little Twitter spat where you did me dirty and blurred my face.
About the Twitter spat, basically Daniel Haqiqatjou blurred her face on the video poster or the debate video poster.
Can't say that I didn't extend the hand of friendship when I graciously returned the favor. I was nice enough to conform to your worldview in order to protect your modesty and respect you. I had no choice but to scribble over your face. I'm sorry. But I wouldn't want you to be an uncovered lollipop, right? So I hope I succeeded in protecting you from those nasty flies. And if you still attracted flies, then I guess veiling isn't the answer. And maybe there's a problem with
Right into the emotional argument.
those flies. Anyway, until we find out, I think it's best you follow Allah's command from Surah An-Nur. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze from looking at forbidden things and protect their private parts. So, Daniel, I'd expect you to be a good Muslim and lower your gaze for the duration of this debate, unless you think the screen between us is enough of a veil to stop fitna. Anyhow, I hope by the end of today's debate, you will at least understand that women are equal to men, whether or not you like it.
Sure.
Your opinion won't and can't change that.
So basically, debate is just to debate. Argument is just to argue. Nothing to prove. Not going to change their mind.
The answer is not to erase women from the public sphere, Daniel. The solution lies in fixing the mentality of men like yourself and to root out the source problem, Islam. The fact that you blurred my features leads me to think that not only do you fear hair, but you'd like to erase women entirely. I'd like to know if beyond veiling, you're a proponent of the niqab, where women aren't even given the decency to see the world through their own eyes. Who do you think you are to take away a woman's personal experience of reality and force her to see the world from behind a veil?
I mean, secularism is just conforming to another ideology. Every person is going to be forced to obey a certain ideology based on where they live or what the culture is.
Allah's so incompetent that first he created such easily tempted, weak men who can't control their sexual urges and impulses, then created beautiful women and gave them an allegedly powerful force that causes men to go astray. He then urges women to cover up that
She's
very
insufferable
thing because
right
of the men
now.
he created weak to begin with. The next name I mentioned should send shivers down all of your spines. Mahsa Jina Amini. Remember her? Beaten to death for showing 2 strands of hair. 2 strands of hair, Daniel. If they can beat a young woman black and blue, concuss and kill her for something as trivial as hair, what would they have done to me just for existing right now? Tell me, Daniel, what is it about hair that threatens Islamists like yourself?
Let's do a count of all the subjective experiences that she's going to mention instead of facts. Count number 1.
So much. What does it do to you men? It seems to me almost as awe-inspiring as getting to see Allah's shin on the Day of Judgment. What about 17-year-old Nika Shakarami? Her nose was smashed and skull was broken in Iran. And Sarah Shirazi? And the 14-year-old who was repeatedly raped and then killed for removing her hijab at school. Islam is responsible for their blood.
Wait a minute. Alright. I'll have to pause at this. Imagine you're going in a car and the traffic is going rapidly and there's a stop signal. There's a traffic light that says stop, red. But you cross the car anyway. Is the blame on the law or the citizens who didn't obey the law? Is the blame on Islam or the people who did that violent acts? You decide. However, by her logic, we should just destroy the law.
If you think these barbaric excuses for men have already convinced us that they're scum, in 2000, Hussein al
Yep, all men are scum. Guys, hear me? I mean, hear her.
to that is crazy. I'm going to teach you about feminism, but hold on.
Alright, let's all listen to her and learn about feminism. The true feminism from Nuriya Khan.
The entire thing that you did in your opening, when you talked about me waffling and, making up stuff.
She waffled a lot.
Talk about,
We can all agree on that.
Nuns who don't get beaten to death. Like, you want to actually contest Mahsa Amini's video that was known to be tampered with. Her father tried to contest that. The fact that you're buying that narrative, of course you have to. It's embarrassing. I know that. But nuns don't get beaten to death. You can't compare. It's a choice.
Sure, for all the years of Christianity, before the liberalization, it was a choice for women. Right?
That's the operative word here, choice. None of the empires or regions that you talked about having veiling claim to be the timeless, eternal religion that Islam is. Society has moved past that. Nobody is being beaten black and blue for not covering their heads. Only under Islamic society is that happening. What you did in your entire opening was an appeal to history and tradition.
The girl appealed to emotions of the whole argument, like picking up subjective experiences of the exceptions to the rule and then placing them as the generality. And she's accusing Daniel of
fallacy because it happened in the past so much, therefore, oh look, it's correct. That's not how it works. And everything that you try to promote as virtue, whether it's in the animal kingdom or males guarding their females or their partners, it just boils down to sexual survival. It is found everywhere. It's not a virtue. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. It does not mean you...
Wait a minute. Isn't she an atheist? So if she's an atheist and she also believes in evolution, so if it's an evolutionary mechanism developed by humans over the, let's say, last 10,000 years, should we really try to erase that, or should we really try to protect it because it has helped us survive so far? Illogical.
Trap women, you confine them, you veil them, you lock them in their houses. And also, did you compare some of these animals lashing out to the morality police? That was hilarious. You also mentioned that having to pay childcare is an issue, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that's the case, why does Islam insist on custody of the child going to the man? Why not keep the child with the female? Even in matters like that, you discriminate because you want to keep that child in the fold. Even there, you don't give the woman the courtesy.
Girl, I hate to break it to you. In Islam, alright, before we go on, let me make two hot takes. Men and women are not equal. Feminism does not equal women's rights. There you go.
Of contesting to keep her child because it's only one way in Sharia. Again, you talk about women being less promiscuous if they are veiled. Do you know the amount of Arab girls that get on planes from the Middle East and take their buyer off as soon as the plane takes off from that Middle Eastern country? Of course you're going to have these skewed studies because it's underreported. If you get caught in one of those countries, you'll go to jail.
No
get
evidence.
lashed.
Just blabbering on and on and on.
Where are you getting this data from? Saying,
yeah, I just noticed. She didn't even cite a single article in her opening statements and even her rebuttal now. She's just stating things, opinions, and not backing them up with facts or evidences.
That this is happening. Because if I was one of those women out there, I definitely would not be reporting it. You also talk about marriage quality, but I wanted to ask you, what kind of marriage are you trying to preserve? Because from the Islamic perspective, you see marriage as the unit from which society is built, yeah? But a marriage that you're proposing ensures that a woman is subservient to her husband, she can be disciplined and raped, according to the Quran.
No comment.
According to the Hadith, if she refuses to let her husband sleep with her, the angels will curse her all night long.
And if the husband does not provide for his wife and does not do her rights, he's going to be sinning as well. He forgets to conveniently mention that one.
Yes, Daniel, female liberation, intersectional feminism, it's new, society is adjusting to it. But have men actually adjusted? Let's ask that question. Are they taking up more of the burden? Women are working now more than ever. I have a fulfilling career and I wouldn't give it up to sit at home all day. Some women want that, and that's their choice. The operative word, again, being choice. So yes, women like myself would like to strike a healthier balance between work and family life when and if I do decide to have children of my own. But the question is, are men shouldering more of the burden? So when you speak of these unhappy women in the West...
Speaking of shouldering all of the burden, let's go 500 years prior in history, and let's look at from the ancient times through the 500 years. The labor or masonry and all the building work is done by primarily men. That's not to say that women are undermined. Women have a different status in the society in all of the prehistory. So her saying that men should man up to get more of a burden, to do more work, is really ridiculous when sees from the lens of the history.
Maybe they are for the very reason that they're having to comply with the pre-existing gender norms as well and try and excel in their career. If the unpaid labor and childcare at home is being done exclusively by one person, then yes, I'm pretty sure they would be bloody miserable and it would definitely take its toll.
Jonathan Haidt just released, he's from Yale or NYU. He just released a huge article on the levels of depression in young women at the highest levels ever. The highest rate of suicidality, like suicide thoughts, depression, mental illness. How can you deny something that is... So it even has a name for it. It's called the happiness of women paradox. Women's happiness paradox, because just like you, people say it doesn't make sense, but here's the empirical data showing the rates of depression. Are you just going to deny that empirical reality?
No, Daniel, I know you always come with these skewed stats.
I know you always come with this empirical data that I cannot deny, so I always going to go into the next point.
Empirical data that matches whatever you have
Empirical data, by the way.
But again...
empirical data, less than facts, emotions.
You can't. How are you connecting that to everything that's happening in the West right now? How are you oversimplifying that entire problem? What do you say?
First of all, do you acknowledge that that's the case? Do you acknowledge that you don't acknowledge that people are at the highest levels of depression?
I haven't seen these stats that you claim to. You can read off anything off the screen. I don't need to.
I'll refer to people. The Paradox of Declining Female Happiness by Betsy Stevenson. You can find it on Yale
There's your
Law
citation.
Review, I believe. If you Google search it, that's the first thing that comes up. The Paradox of Declining Female Happiness. So people can see it on their screens and not think I'm just making it up. You can go to Jonathan Haidt's article. He just published it. Here's the reference. Social media causes negative mental health outcomes. And in the first paragraph, he says that 57% of young women have persistent hopelessness. Persistent hopelessness. That's almost 2/3.
I'm sorry if I yawn in between. It's like past midnight for me.
Nearly 1/3 have seriously considered suicide. Like, it's very callous of you to not acknowledge this empirical reality. I think that this is important to address.
Social media is a global phenomenon. What is your point? Social media is a global phenomenon. You don't think people in the East or in Arab countries or around in Islamic countries are using social media?
Right, so what could be the causes of it? Like, do you think it's healthy for young girls to just constantly be exposed to women using all kinds of makeup and wearing all kinds of clothes that are revealing clothes? Do you think that causes depression or not?
Do you think being forced into a marriage at 6 years old causes depression or not?
We're talking about veiling here. We're talking about veiling. The debate
is
topic is
subjects.
veiling, not every single feminine issue in Islam. You're gish galloping. Why do you think that there are body standard issues that affect a woman's self-confidence or a young girl's understanding of her body? Do you know what anorexia is or bulimia?
100%, I agree with that. Like, hypersexualizing a little girl would give her mad body issues. I agree.
No, it's just through access to images, access to videos,
Again, not
access
answering the
to
question.
undress and nudity.
What about
that's
being
been normalized in society.
Daniel, what about being
like, Yeah, like I said, this is something that is found
She
in
gives me
every
a
single
headache.
pre-modern society. So women in the West are required to cover their chests and to cover their genitals. Do they feel like this lack of a choice is causing them trauma, is causing them to have less authenticity or identity?
That's a very excellent point. Women in the West have been culturally appropriated to wear a certain type of dress, and the limits that law places on them are basically not to show their private parts or genitals and wear a decent clothing. If you don't wear that, the police will capture you and will make you wear more clothing. That's the law of the land. Does that mean that every Western man or woman is being oppressed by the law, by the secular law? Or is that something that people only bring up when they discuss Islamic law because they're doing a paradigm comparison?
Daniel, how are you comparing that to the hijab? Honestly,
It's a force. It's forced. You have to. Are you advocating
Well, it's
nudism,
when
or do you agree?
you
Or do you
want to.
agree? There are nudists, right? But no,
Yeah, of course.
women
Because
cannot
you-
bare their chests. No, it's illegal.
You can
Women
go to
cannot
certain-
bare their chests. They cannot show their
Oh my God,
genitals in
Daniel,
public.
have you ever been to a music festival in? No, that's a silly question. You probably haven't.
You
But
studied law, right? You know that public nudity is illegal, right? You know that.
There's certain places where, of course, you're allowed to
No,
do
no.
it.
Answer: Is it illegal or not?
Again, waffling
Oh.
about.
Is in the UK? Can you go? You're in London or something? Can you go into the streets of London bare-chested and showing your private parts? Is that legal, or will the police force you to cover up?
No, we have topless protests here. Welcome to the 21st century.
No, no.
Waffling
In
about?
general, like without like a actual zone for a protest, can you just go out into the street and bare your chest and genitals? Yes or no?
No, not like that.
Thank you for answering one question after like 3 or 4 follow-up questions. Great work, Nuriya Khan.
No.
Oh, okay. So are women traumatized by that? Are women traumatized by that? Are British women traumatized? Why not? They're being forced. Their choice is being taken away.
Now imagine if you are living in the West and some African colony who live nude come up to you and say that, hey, the women in your culture are oppressed. You are forcing them to wear clothes. That's the same reaction we get in our heads when you guys come, when the non-Muslims come and say that women in your culture are being oppressed. Like, dude, what's the logic behind the argument?
No, Daniel, that's a non sequitur. That makes no sense.
Sure. Okay.
No, I
Yep,
knew you were going to
makes
say
no
that
sense.
hijab is an extra piece of clothing argument. That makes no sense. But listen to this.
Oh.
Okay, we talk about depression.
I don't know the answer,
you are
so no
stifling
sense.
a woman's individuality completely. Do you know that every single research journal on depression states that expressing individuality and creativity, allowing yourself to dress how you want, expressing yourself, can help with depression. So Muslim men who force women like you to dress strictly one way can actually cause depressive symptoms.
I mean, you haven't explained the overarching phenomenon that you have the highest rates of depression and you have the most possibility for self-expression. You can do all kinds of nudity and pornography online and it's completely legal. If we have the highest levels of nudity and ability to express yourself through your naked body, then we should be seeing euphoria and high levels of satisfaction in society among women. But we don't see that. Do you think that whatever people want should be the law? Like just whatever people subjectively think is good, like they should be allowed to do everything? We have laws that restrict people's choices. And the laws are supposed to be based on what is actually going to help society, what is going to help the individual. So I'm not against...
You're saying that it's going to
I'm not
help
against... Yeah, so that's the whole evidence I gave in my opening statement, that veiling and gender separation reduces promiscuity. And this is proven. Look, go to Religion and Sexual Behaviors, Understanding the Influence of Islamic Cultures.
Citations, and I'm going to laugh because I don't know any of those citations and I haven't read on the topic.
And Religious Affiliation for Explaining Sex Outside of Marriage by Amy Adamczyk in the American Sociological Review. She talks about how the levels of cheating, infidelity, and promiscuity and STDs are far lower in Muslim countries and Muslim societies. Look at the HIV rate in Africa. Muslim countries in Africa have the lowest rates of STDs and HIV compared to other countries. Is this due to gender norms, gender separation, veiling? Yes, absolutely. Read the studies.
Daniel, there's also studies show that women engage in just as much casual sex and everything, regardless. So
Where? What study? What study?
There are studies that counter your claims.
Cite it. No, you're just saying that, but you haven't bring the study that is countering my claim.
Okay, let me get your entire argument, right? You try and make
No
citations. This
citations.
thing. Okay, I understand. I'll even concede your point. Men are natural born protectors. I agree, right? Women are.
Do men have any obligations in marriage? Do women have any obligations in marriage?
Yes, to be an equal
Like what?
partner, as a teammate.
No, partner is not an obligation. What is a duty of a wife?
That's an interesting
Does a
question.
husband have a duty to provide for his wife?
Yep.
Not
To provide for his children?
No, just love, respect, and trust.
So
So a husband shouldn't do anything, just be with a girl and then leave. So why is marriage important again?
a man can
You figure it
impregnate
out.
his wife. He can impregnate his wife, and he can just leave, and she's stuck with children, and he has no consequences. That's not actually what the
Well,
law says, right?
Well, the law in Islam says he can, if he lives in the GCC or Pakistan, he can text message her talaq 3 times and never see her again.
He still, in Islam, he still has to pay child support. He still
Yeah.
has to take care of the child according to to his due. So Islam and the Western system acknowledge that there are obligations. There are obligations, right? So
That's
men have obligations. Do women have any obligations in marriage?
That's why we have the law. We don't need Islam to do that for us.
Do women, in whatever law it may be, Western law, Islamic law, do women have any obligations in marriage? But what do they bring to the marriage?
No, because you're
That's feminism for you guys. Men, you should have all the obligations. You should be obligated to provide, to protect your family. Women, they are not necessary for marriage. That's what she's saying. In Islam, both men and women have their roles to play, have their obligations, have their rights, have their obligations, and they all do that to preserve a marriage. That's why Islamic marriages last longer than the West. That's why we have more successful marriages.
setting out predefined ones. I'm
Alhamdulillah.
saying let 2 people decide for themselves. Why do you?
But
have
the
to
man
say
can't
us?
decide for himself. I just explained how the man cannot decide for himself. He is forced by
Under-
law
Law
to
decides
pay
for the
for
man. Law
the women that he
obligates the
has
man.
with his children. He has to be held accountable for the decisions that he makes and the contractual agreement that he's made to enter into a marriage. But I asked you if women have any obligations, and you can't think of a single one.
You
A
have
man
no
has
idea.
all of these obligations that he is obligated to because of the marriage contract, but you can't think of one
Daniel,
obligation that a woman has.
How dare you sit there all smug because Islam has given you absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, can't contest the points and then again blabbering on. I mean, at this point, has she even studied the topic even a little bit, or is just she reading pamphlets?
Oh yeah,
You want.
absolutely everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
exactly. No, it's no wonder that you follow.
You
this.
can't even think of one thing that a woman is required to do in a marriage. A man has all of these obligations according to you. How is that fair? How is that fair, Nuriya? How is that
Gotta
equality?
do this. I hate to do it, but we
How is
have
that
to go into-
equality?
we do have
That's
to
the
go into
very
the Q&A.
definition of equality. It's
have to
helping
go into
you.
That's the definition of equality, my viewers. You guys who are watching, guys and girls, brothers and sisters. That's the definition of equality. That a man does everything, but a woman shouldn't do anything, no obligation. According to feminism, not according to me or Islam. Yep, here the debate ends and they all move on to the question answer session. But let me know your thoughts about what you thought about this video. And inshallah, I'll see you again. Assalamu alaikum.